Welcome back. It's time to talk your money. Now today we're taking a look at that particular story that was trending online, particularly on Twitter, with regards to Chinese nationals setting up shop in some of our local markets, and of course many of us were not happy with it. And the question is, are we being xenophobic? Is it a problem, or are they going against the laws, and we need to have raised the alarm about it? Now let's take we're being joined by Victor Otieno Ogola, an SME expert, as well as George Muse, an immigration expert. Now there are certain laws that go into this. We are a vibrant market, and of course we attract a lot of international traders, but then we're seeing something peculiar. We're having an increase in Chinese nationals engaging in local trade, and this is now the recent one that has cropped up is the sale of mitumba clothes, second-hand clothes by Chinese nationals. I'm of the opinion that we shouldn't be wearing mitumbas, we shouldn't even be selling them, but then it is business and it puts food on our tables, and these are nationals that have seen a market and they're taking advantage of it as business persons. So I'll start with you, Victor, Mr. Victor Ogola. What is the problem? Is it the fact that they are Chinese, or is it the fact that they're taking food out of our mouths, or out of our plates?
Thank you very much. I think for starters, we need to look at this challenge or this situation from a bird's point of view.
Yes.
Kenya as a country is trying to scale the ease of doing business index, which requires that you ensure that starting and running a business in a country is easy.
Is easy, yes.
Yeah. So that's where the challenge is, in the sense that it's now easier for you to come set up shop and bring in foreign direct investment.
Yes.
So we can't, you can't have your cake and eat it at the same time. Yeah. So either we say we close our markets to try to protect some of this industry, or we advance as a global player.
Yeah.
In terms of facilitating trade.
All right. And in connection with that, we have some sound bites that we got from the market that we're going to play for you right now, just to help develop that conversation on the Chinese nationals trading in our local markets.
Ya mchina iko chini, lakini ukiangalia kibei mchina ako sawa. Ndio maana watu wengi wamekimbilia kazi ya mchina. Analeta mizigo mingi, na ukiangalia sana watu wengi wanaajira kwa sababu ya mchina.
Mchina bei yake ni kidogo. Watu wa Geshagi anakuja ananua nguo na 5,000. UK iko 10,000. Sasa hata ukiangalia lazima anunue China, imuinue ndio tena aende kurudi UK. Lakini nguo ya UK iko quality.
Ile nimeona kwa nguo ya China, watu wa China wameleta nguo, lakini hiyo nguo sio mzuri. Nguo ile inatoka China ni nguo ile fupi, wanatoa zile nguo fupi.
Now, those are sentiments that we got yesterday from locals, local traders at the market. Some are in support because the prices brought on board by the Chinese nationals are quite affordable, while those that are brought by traders from the UK and other places are not quite as affordable. And obviously some of the clothes are not as good as the ones from other Western countries, as that trader said. But you're explaining to us where the problem lies. We're trying to open up and make it a good environment for foreigners to do business. But at the same time, we're also not happy with it. And you've said that we can't have our cake and eat it. Tell us more.
If taking you back to the time when what we call the gig economy.
Yes.
By gig economy, I mean basically the shared economy in the sense of Uber, Airbnb, and the rest. When Uber, for example, entered the Kenyan market, there was a lot of uproar.
Yeah.
In the sense that this new company or this new business model is coming to disrupt the way we do taxi business.
Yes.
But you realize that typical Kenyans were able to change their ways of doing business, and they adopted and were able to compete effectively with Uber and the rest.
Yeah.
And we saw little cab coming in, which is local.
Yes.
So I think that's where we are going. Even if we try to stop this onslaught, for lack of a better word, of the Chinese, is we are operating in a global economy. So we are competing globally. So what the focus should be is how can we rejig, how can we recalibrate ourselves to be able to perform at par with with our global
Some of these,
counterparts.
with our
So I
global
think that's the bigger question that we should be trying to grapple with. I know we would want to tackle the short-term issue of the Chinese now, but the question is, we already have manufacturing being done in Kariakoo market in terms of leather shoes.
Oh, yes.
We have manufacturing being done in light industry.
Right.
We have manufacturing being done in Jogoo Road, Uhuru Market, textile.
Yeah.
Why can't we start talking to in terms of supporting this very nascent manufacturing, because that's the future.
That is the future, and of self-sustainability in terms of our economy. Now, Mr. Musei, there are laws that govern who can work here and at what level. So some of the arguments against the perceived invasion of the Chinese in our local markets, such as Gikomba, is that they are from a better country, a more developed country, and therefore they shouldn't be able to be taking jobs or working at capacities where locals can. But these are not jobs, these are businesses, aren't they? So could you please enlighten us on the intricacies of these laws and if they're actually breaking any by doing what they're doing?
Thank you, Trix. First and foremost, I don't think there's a person by the name Chinese.
Yeah.
These are individuals that come from China.
Absolutely.
That have names. So from an immigration perspective, I'm thinking probably the Director of Immigration would want to know who are these people, what are their names, and what status are they in Kenya. Again, there's no law in Kenya that says people from specific countries cannot do 1, 2, 3 things. However, there are processes. There are categories of work permit and business, investment classes that you need to, to apply for and qualify. I'm thinking probably if the Chinese are here lawfully, they must have gone through one of those categories.
Yes, to be trading openly in that level.
I don't know, because I would like to, if you, for instance, you say I'm coming to set up a business, and I have 50 million to invest in Kenya, and you can show that in the bank, and then you say the kind of things you're going to be doing in Kenya, you probably will be given a permit. Now the question we need to be asking is, when they applied for those kind of permit, did they say they're going to set up a stall in Gikomba, right? Okay. So we probably want to, because I don't want to be an alarmist, we want to get the facts in terms of who are these people, Mr. XYZ. What permit, what immigration status are they in Kenya? And does that status allow them to open a store in Gikomba? I will tell you something. If you've been to Gikomba, probably not. But those that go there, you will find that there are so many foreigners in Gikomba. Wachaga and people from other countries.
Absolutely. That's actually my next question, because I wanted to ask you, when we see actually a few years ago there was an American lady who was working as a matatu conductor, and we celebrated her. We were so happy that she was doing this, and we thought, oh, how humble of her. But then there are these Chinese people doing the same exact thing. So are we being xenophobic, or are we just or combative or defensive, or what is it about having Chinese nationals that just seem to rub Kenyans on Twitter the wrong way? Because we've heard the sentiments on the screen. They are not all that negative, were they?
I mean, it's a question, and I want to see journalists also to look at both sides of the coins. Have we spoken to the consumers of this product?
Absolutely.
There must be a market, but back to immigration. If you go to Gikomba, there are probably more Chagas, people from other countries, than Kenyan traders. The problem with Chinese is probably the color. It's very easy to notice them.
They stand out.
And we must be very careful as a country not to go that way. What we need to do is to ask very fundamental and factual questions, because as to whether someone is in Kenya on the right immigration status is a question of fact. It's not an opinion. So we need to have the people that are, entrusted with that job to check out these fellows and say, Mr. Lee, how are you here? And you will say, I am on a class G or an investor permit, and then you will be asked, does it allow you to invest?
To do this.
Because at the end of the day, whether you like it or not, we have gone Chinese long time ago. We drive on Chinese roads. We go to hospitals built by Chinese. We do a lot now, low-cost housing. I think for me, the concern from an immigration perspective is, are these people here on the correct class of permit.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, class of permits. And as somebody who has been on the other side, I would tell you that there are thousands of Kenyans living in China, working and studying in China. So as we become so defensive when we see them here, we have to remember that they're on the other side. There are thousands of our kids in their universities. Now, I'd like to go back to the issue of trade. And they say that if they're here and they're trading, it means our markets are providing an environment that they can actually thrive on and take advantage of. So assuming they are in legally, they have their paperwork right. So what is the problem? Is it that the competition is too steep? And what is it about what they're doing that the Kenyan person that cannot do it as a trader that's making it very unfair? What is being suggested to be unfair competition between the two traders?
I think it's a very basic, classic case of competitive advantage through price.
Yes.
The only advantage that the Chinese traders have is they're able to offer the products at a cheaper price than the traditional traders who used to go to China, then import the products from China and come to sell in Kenya. So I think, I basically think, Kenyans, we underestimate the ingenuity of Kenyans.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think if you look at, like I mentioned, the three areas of manufacturing that is being done in Kenya.
Yeah.
If you go, for example, and buy a leather shoe in Karioko market, in terms of price, because I've bought shoes from Karioko.
Yeah.
You buy a leather loafer shoe for 800 shillings. The same shoe coming from either Ethiopia or China comes for 1,500 shillings.
Yes.
And it's good quality.
Yes.
The challenge has been the perception of the consumer on local made products.
Okay.
We as Kenyans, we don't appreciate local stuff. So that's the other reality that we also need to come to terms with.
Sure.
If I was to give you a shoe written Victor Otieno and another written Gucci, whether it's the real Gucci or not, you probably buy, you're better off with the Gucci, with the fake Gucci. And that's also a reality that we also need to come to terms with. Second is, for a long time, we've been doing business based on gut feelings.
Yes.
You realize that global players look at or perceive business as a science. So they do business plans. Before even the same Chinese comes to Kenya, they have done their homework. They know their customer journey. They know the behavior of Kenyans in terms of the way they consume. But for us, we just do business as usual. If you were to ask a trader, have you done even a
what
simple...
What informed this decision?
We don't use any kind of science.
Yeah.
So I think that's also a challenge on us. And like I said, we probably need to start rejigging. I know there are systemic issues with policy and stuff, but there is a responsibility of you as a trader to do your homework and perfect your trade for you to be able, because it's an open market. Market forces always come into play. There is demand, customers demand some certain items, and you're able to provide affordably. So right now, currently, maybe the Chinese are doing a better job in terms of pricing correctly, but I think given time and given obviously some level of protection from state, which has to take place at some point, we can be able to nurture our young entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. And I'll still want to go back to the immigration laws and regulations and just figure out as far as employing locals, what is stipulated and what's the reality on the ground as far as the Chinese or other foreign traders are concerned. But before we get into that, we have a soundbite from CS Fred Matiang'i, who was speaking about the same issue on how the laws that govern trading and the permits that are issued to foreigners who are working here locally. Let's have a listen.
Because you see, like the issue is, this was issued when you are saying January 2017. It's been on it. It's been on this news. So in other words, you have got a renewal every 2 years to be a site manager when in Kenya. Tunafikiria hakuna Wakenya wanaweza kumanage site ya mjengo tu, mtu kukaa kumanage, hakuna Mkenya anaweza kumanage site. Tuko na Wakenya wengi. Because you see, we have to categorize this thing. Mimi sikubali hii maneno. Unaelewa? Wait.
Yes, sir.
These are things I want you to look at. Tuache hii mchezo bwana. Mimi I don't like this kind of things.
Yes, sir.
Wait, how many Kenyans can work at construction site? Tumepea muhindi kwa permit kuja kumanage site.
Right, the CS not very happy with the state of affairs right there. But then I would like to understand that what the law says, because while we're having foreign nationals working here, they come with their investment. I would assume that this would provide employment to our youth that are looking for investors or traders who are coming in with their ability to employ. So what does the law says, or what are the rules and regulations with regard to that?
I mean, there are several classes of permits.
Yes.
Only one mostly is for investors, the Class D, for employees.
Yes.
But the Class G, which is mostly the investment one,
right,
you're required to show proof of capital, which is 10 million Kenyan shillings.
Yes.
You need to be registered, and you need to show the value you're going to add to the country. Of course, it's expected you're going to show value to the country by creating jobs, because we are a country that is lacking in terms of the jobs. But then there are some investment that are just capital intensive. Someone who is doing low-cost housing,
yes,
or in IT industry, you find that it could be 1 billion shillings investment at only 10. You're employing only 10 developers or thereabout.
Absolutely.
Look at even companies like Uber. Uber is a huge company. In terms of employment directly, not many, but look at the number of drivers, the benefit to Kenyans. I think what has been the biggest problem in this country is illegal immigration. In terms of the legal ones, I think the government has really controlled that, because if you look at the permit being issued, the vetting and all that, they are now very strict. The problem is people come here as tourists or for business, on a business visa, and they do the things you do.
Okay.
I can bet most likely those fellows in Gikomba do not have work permits.
Okay.
They came here to visit. There are fellows working in SGR or somewhere, and they saw an opportunity. I think we have a big problem of enforcement.
Yes.
Immigration department, and I keep saying, does not have enough good capacity to enforce laws. You'll find a lot of them in offices, at the airport, in your house. But if you go to countries like Tanzania, you'll find immigration enforcement officers in every town.
Yes.
So I think we need to enforce immigration laws.
Right. So I'm thinking the problem is not that, shouldn't be the color of the skin, or that they're invading us. It should be with the laws and complying with that. Now, assuming that they do that and they are in compliance, how can we work together? Because you have pointed out, Mr. Agola, that we are a globalized community. We cannot rip ourselves away from foreign nationals, because if it might, today it's the Chinese, tomorrow it might be some Brazilians, some Canadians. We are a market and we need to interact in order to grow. So moving forward, how would you want, or how would it be ideal for both the Kenyan trader and the Chinese trader to work together for the common good of economic prosperity?
I think also we need, because Kenyan traders fall under technically the micro, small, medium enterprises.
Yes.
Which is 98% of all registered business.
Absolutely.
Contributing, employing over 30% of the Kenyan population. So they are really important segment, but for a long time they have been ignored.
Yeah.
And just the other day, the President of the Republic indicated in one of our symposium that they have ignored the particular sector.
Yes.
So I think the Chinese onslaught, both in Nyamakima, because Nyamakima also has an issue because they also import electronics.
Right.
And Kikomba, and any person who's importing from China to Kenya, is only an indicator of the bigger problem that we have.
Yes.
So for a long time as a country, even if you look at media, for example, the issue of SMEs and traders only comes when there's a bad thing happening. There's fire in Kikomba, there's fire in Toi. That's why it makes headlines. We have a lot of political, politicians being given a lot of space, but we don't give space to trade or just normal business. And this is across board. The same with financial institutions. Financial institutions have not been giving access finance to small businesses. Insurance is not insuring the particular sector. So the entire ecosystem has ignored this particular sector.
So this is where the friction comes in, because you see a Chinese coming in with much cheaper goods. They're the same goods you're probably selling, but they're much cheaper. But you notice they are well supported with their government. That is it.
That's why they're able to come and trade better.
Yeah.
What about us? So us, we need to look at, for example, tax. Yeah. So is tax friendly to the micro small enterprises?
Yeah.
Is for example issues to do with certification. You have to get almost 5, 6, 7 certificates for you to start trading. We don't have access to finance. So there's a lot of systemic challenges that the sector faces that any competition that comes can blow you out from the market immediately.
Yes.
So I think that's the bigger issue that we need to start discussing. How do we support our small businesses?
Yeah.
How do we, for example, we always say substandard products come from light industry. How can we support those guys where they are to improve? Because even if you look at China, they started building low quality stuff and built quality over time.
Yeah.
But for us, we say, I don't buy goods from light industry. I don't buy goods from Kariako. They are low quality. I'm a middle class, and this is the quality that I want to.
And to point something out, when there are different grades of goods, and I would imagine that because our local traders are not particularly empowered financially, they would go and import low quality goods because that's what they can afford. And if you go to China, whatever you have will determine what you get, so it's value for your money. So I'm thinking about the issue of Kenyans importing goods and them being trapped in depots or at the port. How can we work through that and ensure that while we are even competitive, because while the Chinese national is able to bring their goods in, the Kenyan trader is suffering because their stuff has been locked up for months at some depot somewhere, and the president himself has to come and intervene. So how can we work through that?
I think as a country, we need to come to reality that I think at some point I feel like we are not patriotic enough
to our own worst
country.
enemy.
Because we talk about brand Kenya, but if I ask you today, if I was to give you a Kenyan-made product, you will find whatever reason not to buy that product.
Yeah.
You'll say it's expensive, you'll say it's low quality, and
cheap,
whatever.
yeah.
So that's one. Two is there's a lot of vested interest in the system.
Right.
So whenever the question of if I'm bringing a container from wherever, why would you want to, block my way from from bringing that particular container inside?
Yeah.
So I think if you look at other countries, every point at every point of any system, they want to facilitate. They want to ensure that traders be the best that they can be. While in Kenya, the system is always a bottleneck. Okay. Whether you're looking at revenue, they're looking at revenue. They're not focusing on the customer who they should be serving. If you're looking at cabs, for example, they're looking at their own frameworks instead of talking to this person and telling them, how can I help you comply?
Yes.
So it's always it's us against them mentality.
How can I punish you for not complying? Yes. Mr. Muse, anything to add on the immigration bit of things?
I think we need to accept the fact that nowadays immigration is a reality.
Yes.
You go anywhere, you find Chinese, you find Kenyans. I travel in a lot of the countries in this world, you find even Kenyans doing things you wouldn't expect.
We were talking about there being a Chinatown in every city in the world. There's also a little Kenyan town in every major city in the world.
So like you said, I have a friend of mine who ran a very successful business here.
Yeah.
But he said, no, I want to go and set my business in China. He's in China now. My good friend is Edwin Boro, if he's watching. He's setting a company in China.
Yeah.
How many Kenyans do we know that go to China for studies? If you go to the Chinese embassy today, queues upon queues of Kenyans going there. So what I think is, let us not be alarmist. And I would urge journalists as well.
Yes.
Let's get both sides of the story. Let's get fact. Let's get data. Because I don't think immigration department is just sitting down and dishing out permit to everyone. It could be cases of illegal immigration is within their docket. They need to handle that. But the reason why Chinese are standing out in Gikomba is because of their color. Because there are so many foreigners in Gikomba.
Yeah, that is true, because they're Asians. You have Caucasian people, all kinds of people in Gikongwa. So we have to understand that it's a double-edged sword. While they come here to trade, we are also flocking their country because of some economic benefits that we are seeking. And that concludes our discussion on your money. We take a short break. When we come back,